million every year. That's almost £3.6 million every day. Deliberate crashes, bogus personal injuries, even phantom pets. The fraudsters are risking more and more to make a quick killing, and every year it's adding around £50 to your insurance bill. But insurers are fighting back, exposing just under 15 fake claims every hour. Armed with covert surveillance systems,
there's a subject out the vehicle,
sophisticated data analysis techniques, and a number of highly skilled police units, they're catching the criminals red-handed.
Just don't lie to us.
All those con men, scammers and cheats on the fiddle are now caught in the act and claimed and shamed. Today, investigators have a hard time making sense of a claim for a lost watch.
You've supplied an invoice for a watch, okay, dated December, but you added the watch to your policy 4 months before you've got the invoice. I'm just trying to understand how that would be possible.
And in the USA, the husband who would stop at nothing to get what he wanted.
You good with this? No change in your mind? She's gonna be dead. Dead. Like 6 feet under, Chad. Tomorrow or Thursday.
Insurance companies are experts in detecting potentially fraudulent claims and have a wealth of systems in place to ensure that nothing is missed. But sometimes a claimant's version of events is so full of holes, it would be harder not to miss them. Lots of us enjoy the odd luxury item. The only problem is that they don't come cheap. So if you lose one, then you could find yourself seriously out of pocket. Unless, of course, you have it insured. But as insurers LV know all too well, policies for high-value items can be a prime target for spurious claims.
We were contacted by our customer's son, who said that he'd lost a very expensive designer watch and that he wanted to put a claim in on his mother's policy for the loss of the watch.
But what set this claim apart was that this wasn't your average timepiece.
Due to the high value of the watch, it needed to be specified separately on the policy. He told us in that first call that he'd purchased the watch from the US via eBay for £13,000, although the watch had been insured on the policy for £8,000.
The watch that you listed on the policy,
Yeah.
it's been listed as £8,000.
You know, the reason for that was because I didn't want my family knowing how much I paid for it. Because at the end of the day, paying that much for the watch, like the engagement as well, my mother and family would have kicked off.
So it was listed at £8,000 because you didn't want your family to know the value. Okay. Now, with regards to the invoice that you supplied for the watch, the date that I've got on the invoice, okay, is December, and you listed the watch in August.
Yeah.
You've supplied an invoice for a watch,
Yeah.
okay, dated December, but you added the watch to your policy 4 months before you've got the invoice. I'm just trying to understand how that would be possible.
Didn't really check any dates on it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that.
The claimant said that he'd been on a night out with friends, he'd been drinking quite a lot, didn't remember exactly what had happened, but he'd lost the watch at some point that evening. He last remembered seeing the watch at about 8 p.m, and it wasn't until about 2 days later when he discovered that the watch was missing.
Now, I don't know about you, but if I were walking around with a £13,000 watch strapped to my wrist, I'd like to think I would notice it was missing significantly sooner than 2 days after losing it. And that wasn't the only part of the claim that was hard to believe.
Since losing the watch, it didn't appear that the claimant had done anything to find out whether it had been found. He hadn't retraced his steps or visited the nightclub that he'd been in, or made any attempt to contact taxi firms or the police to see if the watch had been handed in.
Even though the claimant's behaviour was at odds with what you would expect after such a huge loss, the claim was processed nevertheless.
To substantiate his claim, The claimant provided a copy of the purchase receipt and also a photograph of the watch.
But before the receipt and photo arrived, LV received a bit of a bombshell.
Whilst we were waiting for the documentation to come in, we were actually contacted by another insurer who told us that they'd also been presented with a watch claim by this claimant around 4 months previously, which was the same make, and it was apparently damaged beyond repair following a road traffic accident.
The case was referred to LV's Claims Crime Prevention team, who launched an investigation.
Firstly, we weren't able to independently verify that the company had sold the watch to our customer. They'd ceased trading recently, but from what we could gather, they had no interest in selling watches or jewellery, so it seemed a bit strange that they would produce his invoice for a £13,000 watch. When we spoke to the other insurer, interestingly, they told us that they had been supplied with exactly the same receipt for the purchase invoice, which showed the same model of watch and the same amount paid on the same date. This obviously raised the question, if it was damaged beyond repair, why would he be wearing it on the night in question when he said that he lost the watch?
Armed with this knowledge about their customers' previous attempts to claim for the same model of watch, using the same receipt, one of LV's agents gave him another call.
Now, with regards to the watch that you were claiming for, this is the only Jacob & Co. watch you've owned. Is this correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there is a claim that came up against your name for a Jacob & Co. watch.
No, not really.
So you haven't made a claim?
Not as far as I'm aware of.
It turned out that the customer's denial of the previous claim he'd attempted with another insurer was just one of numerous discrepancies.
When we spoke to our customer the second time, he said that he last remembered looking at the watch at 1:30 a.m, which contradicted what he'd told us in the initial call when he last checked his watch at 8 p.m.
So the last time you remember seeing it was when you put it on and left the house, was it?
Yeah,
Yeah, and what time was that?
that was about 8 o'clock in the evening.
Where were you when you last recall actually seeing the watch?
In Cardiff.
A bar. Okay. And what time was that?
Probably about
1:30 a.m.
Yeah.
He also said regarding purchase of the watch that he'd met the seller in person, which contradicted his first call when he said he'd bought the watch off eBay from a seller in America.
Right, and where did you get it from?
I bought that from, it was on eBay, it was, from America.
Right, lovely.
So the sale was via eBay?
No, I met him because he was in South Wales and just paid in cash.
For LV, there was only one conclusion.
We felt that there was enough evidence to prove that this was a fraudulent claim. So we then wrote to the claimant, repudiating the claim in full, quoting the fraud term on the policy. We also cancelled the policy with LV, and we added the customer's son's name to a fraud database, which is checked by other insurers and financial organisations. We didn't receive any response from the claimant to that letter.
Still to come, a policyholder is like a dog with a bone as she attempts to push through her claim.
So at the moment, this is a pre-existing condition and it's not covered under the policy.
It's not a pre-existing condition. She didn't have this condition before I took out the policy.
We've seen the lengths some chancers here in the UK will go to in order to get their hands on a payout they're not entitled to. But that pales in comparison to the depths some fraudsters will sink to in America. In the state of Virginia, Naval Officer Chadwick Jasquire and his wife Catherine were going through a bitter separation. Chad had already filed for bankruptcy and wanted custody of their son, so he hatched a plan to turn his situation around. Chad's plot was uncovered when he asked a friend to help him hire a hitman to kill Catherine. However, rather than assist Chad, his friend went straight to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives, where Special Agent Edward Winkelspect took on the case.
The first initial information I received from the source of information was Jesquire's relationship with his ex-wife was very troublesome. They've been going through a long, drawn-out divorce and custody battle that cost him thousands of dollars. He did have some financial troubles. He declared bankruptcy, and he was in debt of approximately $40-something thousand.
But with a $100,000 life insurance policy in place, Chad's financial problems would be behind him in the event of Catherine's death.
This is what led me to believe that the reason he wanted to have her killed was for financial gain.
ATF rigged a car with recording equipment and instructed their informant to set up a meeting to tell Chad he'd found someone who could carry out his plan.
So he's for real.
I mean, you know this dude?
I know the person above him, yeah.
So I just don't want to be talking to a cop or
No, you're not talking to a cop, buddy. This is just all I'm trying to tell you. This is a for real thing. If you're ready, we're gonna do it.
like I said, dude, I don't know what else to do, man. I tried to make peace with her, man, and she just threw it right back in my face, and I'm like, I don't know what else to do, dude.
Despite being given the chance, Chad shows no sign of backing out.
I don't know how he's gonna do it, but as long as none of it blows back on me, I'm good.
I was gonna blow back on you unless you say something.
Well, I'll be like, oh, you're talking about.
Right.
Where's your evidence? Where's your proof?
Right.
I've been sitting at home all night with my kid.
The next stage was to set up a meeting with the man who would kill Catherine.
That's Chad. That's how you doing?
But of course, this was in fact an undercover ATF agent.
That's when Jesquire seemed to get comfortable with the undercover pretty quickly.
Man, how do you want this done? I mean, how do you want it dead?
Suggestions.
I mean, I think we all know what's the most effective way. Because I don't really want to go hands-on and she scratches me or something. Right. I mean, I don't know how you feel, man, but a headshot's going to do it.
Well, whatever works.
That's the quickest, man.
Whatever works, man. I just, like I said, I'm good with whatever. As long as I know I'm covered, and it sounds like you got this.
Your best thing's work.
Huh?
Your best place is at work. You gotta be at work.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
You got to know they're gonna step to you first. I mean, how are you gonna act, man? I mean, you gotta do the surprise act, not the oh my god, I can't believe it act.
Right.
When do you want this taken care of with your wife? When you have the kid again?
Next week. Pick them up Monday.
Is that too soon?
Or just get it over with. I mean, whenever you're ready.
Get some freedom?
Yep.
The undercover agent then steers the conversation towards payment.
So what's the deal with the insurance, man? How much?
$100,000.
How much for me?
You tell me.
Half.
I'm good with that. If you're good with that, I'm good with that.
Just under a week later, another meeting is arranged with Chad and the undercover agent.
Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2.
This time to hand over a $1,000 down payment, photos of Catherine, and to finalize the arrangements for her murder.
All right. Is this how she looks right now?
Pretty much.
All right.
It's only like a year and a half old.
Once again, Chad is given the opportunity to back out.
You good with this? No change in your mind?
Good.
'Cause she's gonna be dead. Dead. Like 6 feet under dead. Tomorrow or Thursday.
With Chad showing absolutely no doubts, the deal is done. Or so he thought. But in reality, he had sealed his fate.
The most damning piece of evidence in this case, I think, would be the audio video that we did during the investigation. Mr. Jesquire's statements that he made during the investigation about how he wanted his wife killed. Some of the statements he made were pretty bad.
It's gonna look like something other than a straight no.
It's gonna look like she got robbed. I might even rip up her shirt or something like that. I ain't doing anything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just so they start thinking in different directions.
Never did Mr. Jesquire show any signs of second thoughts or remorse for what was about to happen.
Just 2 days later, ATF agents arrive at Chad's work to give him the terrible news that Catherine has been murdered.
How you doing? And too, there's no real easy way of telling the family member this. But this morning, your wife Catherine was found deceased on the Chesapeake, and it's okay. We just wanted to ask you to, keep preliminary questions. If you wouldn't mind coming over to my office.
Sorry to bring this on. Why don't we go over there, get some water? Yeah, you know what I mean?
It seemed to me like he was trying to conjure up some tears, but they never came. Once he came to the station, we continued on with the death notification scenario.
We're working on homicide, okay? So, of course, we're trying to get some preliminary information as far as, anything that can help us, give us any leads, or okay? So, just so you know that, unfortunately, she was shot and killed, okay? We're not sure if it was a robbery, believe possibly a robbery, and so that's what we're working with right now.
Then at one point, we had the undercover walk into the room.
Hey, Chad. I lied to you about what I do for a living. I'm really a federal agent with ATF. All right? You listen to these guys and talk to them, all right?
So look, we're going to change up things a little bit, okay? Now look, you don't have no weapons on you or nothing like that.
At that point, Mr. Jesquire kind of slumped in his chair, and you could see his heart beating through his uniform.
We have a ton of evidence against you, just so you know. So we're not really here to get any confession or anything like that. We're here really to try to understand what drove you to do this.
Just want my kid out of harm's way.
Try and get your kid out of harm's way.
And Mr. Jesquire's only reason in doing this was to protect his son. I believe that it was for financial gain as well.
With the overwhelming evidence against him, Jesquire's fate was inevitable.
Mr. Jesquire did not take this case to trial. He ended up taking a plea, and he was sentenced to 11 years.
Thanks to the informant and the work of the ATF and their undercover agent, Chadwick Jesquire's sickening plot to murder his wife and cash in on a life insurance policy had been foiled. When you're making an insurance claim, part of the process is to recount the details of what's happened, and quite often more than once. Now, if the claim is genuine, that's not a problem. But when the claim's dodgy, keeping your story straight becomes a lot harder. A pet insurance policy can provide peace of mind, leaving owners safe in the knowledge that should disaster strike, any vet's bills are covered. Just like any other forms of insurance, though, a pet policy needs to be in place before the need to claim arises. But that doesn't stop some chances from trying to fudge the date to receive a payout.
We first heard from this customer when they sent an email to us to say that they tried to set up a temporary period of free cover and couldn't backdate it. We called the policyholder to investigate what they've been trying to do.
It's regarding an email you sent us about having trouble activating the 5 weeks free insurance. Yeah, well, the thing is, I activated it. I bought her about 3 weeks ago, and I tried to backdate it on the actual website, and it wouldn't let me.
No, it won't, because what happens is, are you the breeder?
No, I'm the owner.
Because the breeder has to activate the 5 weeks free insurance.
Yeah, no, he tried that,
yes.
but he activated it, but it would only give him the option to activate it from the 28th, which was yesterday.
Yeah, it would do, because the breeders, on the forms they get, they know that they can activate them up to 10 days in advance of the puppy leaving, or up to 3 days after, and that is the only criteria that we offer.
So So when is it going to be? Is it going to be when he activated it, which was the 28th? Yes, it will be. So the 5 weeks runs from the 28th of February for you and expires on the 3rd of April for you. Oh, okay. So anything from basically the 28th, if I need to take it to the vet, obviously I can. It's valid, basically. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day. And you. Thanks, Ben. Thank you. Bye.
So confusion cleared, and the policy was now active from the 28th of February. But little did the customer know that for Agria, the subject of the call had been a huge red flag.
Whenever a policyholder talks about backdating cover and backdating the start of a policy, we always have suspicions that something may have occurred that they want covered.
And it wasn't long before those suspicions were aroused even further.
We next heard from the customer just 2 weeks later, and sadly the puppy, which was a French Bulldog puppy, had broken its leg, and the policyholder was wanting to make a claim, and the claim was for £4,300. It's a huge amount of money.
So an attempt at backdating a policy, followed by a claim to the tune of almost £4,500. Coincidence? Agria didn't think so.
When we started to assess the claim, we looked at the claim form, and there was one key piece of information that the policyholder had not given us, and that was the date in which the injury had happened or the symptoms are first noticed. The policyholder had left this blank. Luckily, in the vet section of the claim form, they had documented the date on which the condition was noted and had happened, and the leg was broken on the 27th. That was a day before cover actually started.
From the information Agria had so far, it certainly looked as though this was indeed an attempt to incept a policy after an accident had occurred. But mistakes can happen, so Agria needed to be sure.
I wanted to give you a call and just clarify some things. So you purchased it on the 26th, the insurance has been set up via the web, and that's on the 28th. Yeah. Set up online on the 28th at 7:10. Yeah. So we have then got the claim form in, and on the claim form it says, when did the policyholder first notice the signs or symptoms of the dog's illness or injury? And that's been put as the 27th of February.
No, it was in March. It wasn't in February.
So it wasn't on the 27th of February?
No, it was like 2 weeks after basically her insurance was activated and stuff. That's when she had the accident.
Right. So we've got on the claim form, it says, started on the 27th of February 2017, received Metacam, which is a pain relief, on the 27th of February at the vet.
Yeah, but that wasn't for her, that was for my other pet.
The owner consistently tried to change her story, and on numerous occasions tweaked it, changed it to try and make the claim a valid claim against when the cover was set up.
We've got a document stating that on the 1st of March 2017, owner reports dog started limping 2 days ago after heard her yelp. Went to the vet, 2 days her Metacam.
Oh, see, I told, my vet, I rang them up and I said, I've got some Metacam at home that is from my other dog, right? Is it okay if I give her some? They said, yeah, that's no problem. So I give her a bit of, obviously, my other dog's Metacam, but the Metacam wasn't prescribed for her.
So when did you call them to say you needed to give her Metacam?
On the 1st of March.
So you called them and you went into the vets on the 1st of March?
And then I give her Metacam for about a day.
So so you gave it for a day, so you went in on the 1st, but you would have called them the day before, the 1st of March?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that would have been the 28th?
Yeah.
And when did you call them regarding that? Was that during the 28th?
It was during the day, yes.
Okay. So that's obviously prior to the start of the policy, because the policy didn't start until 7:10 on the 28th. So at the moment, this is a pre-existing condition and it's not covered under the policy?
It's not a pre-existing condition. She didn't have this condition before I took out the policy.
So in the space of one phone call, the woman had claimed the accident to her puppy's leg happened 2 weeks after the policy was taken out. She then went on to say she'd been in contact with the vets about the injury before the policy had been taken out and was told to give the puppy medication prescribed for one of her other pets. Never mind the poor puppy. In this case, it was the claimant who didn't have a leg to stand on.
From our point of view, it was crystal clear from the veterinary records, and the veterinary history and the veterinary declaration the condition had happened on the 27th and the policy had started on the 28th. Therefore, we contacted the customer and advised that the claim would be declined as it was pre-existing the start date of the policy. At this point, despite all the change of story and adapted circumstances, the policyholder recognised that we weren't going to pay the claim and that they'd been caught out, and became very matter-of-fact, changed their tone completely.
Oh, hello. Can I cancel that, please? I don't even have a dog anymore.
Okay. I'm sorry to hear that. What's happened?
I rehomed her.
Okay then. Obviously you've got a claim outstanding with us.
Yeah, I do, but I got told that you wasn't going to pay it out, so...
Who advised you that?
My vet.
That's okay, because we haven't advised anyone that we're not paying the claim.
Oh. Okay, I'm a bit confused now then.
2 weeks ago, I hadn't spoken to your vets regarding the outcome of the policy, and the reason for my call today was just to unfortunately we cannot pay the claim because the condition is pre-existing.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't, but you know.
Okay, it's just because obviously you advised them that it happened on the 27th of February. You then mentioned to myself that you called the vets out of hours, because obviously there was a mention of Metacam being given prior to being seen.
Yeah.
Okay, so called all their phone calls. So they checked every single phone call received on the 28th and the 27th, and they never received any phone call from you. They've advised me that no vet would have ever instructed Metacam to have been given to a puppy that wasn't seen.
Right. Okay. Well, I knew it was going to go this way anyway.
Even in the cancellation call, there were suspicious inconsistencies. Now, though, it was irrelevant.
In this case, the whole process was completely unnecessary. If the breeder had set the policy up themselves at the point at which the puppy had been purchased, none of this would have happened. It was very clear that it was a pre-existing condition and the owner had been trying to defraud us of over £4,000. They were found out. If the process had been followed, it would have been a valid claim.
From serial fraudsters to opportunists, insurance fraud hits all of us in the pocket. But instead of getting away with it, more and more of these fraudsters are being claimed and shamed.